Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who doesn't know how to look at the fucking camera when he's making a video. I am here to talk about the prelims to UFC Fight Night, whatever the fuck. I'm going to go through the prelims from top to bottom, give you my preview, predictions, and bets along the way. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Lena Lansberg. I've got Mayra Bueno Silva winning the fight. Lena Lansberg's 41 years old, a lot of mileage, 10-7 record. Her 7 losses come 3 via TKO, 4 via decision. And the TKOs are all deep into the fight. To Cyborg and Aspen Ladd pounded her out. And Pani Kianzad got her out of there in round 3, 10 years ago. But Lansberg's never been submitted. And Mayra Bueno Silva, that's her game. She's got 9 wins, 6 come via submission, 2 via decision, and 1 TKO, which was really a doctor stoppage, or a corner stoppage, whatever. But she didn't get her out of there in the middle of a round, is my point. So the finish on paper isn't there. But I still think Mayra Bueno Silva is going to get Lena Lansberg out of there. I think she matches her physically. She's got 10 years of youth on her, so to speak. And just, she's a problem on top. She's not as heavy as Aspen Ladd, which is going to get into the full mount and pound the shit out of her. But she's more deadly. She's more deadly. And even if Lena Lansberg is able to get her down or reverse position or whatever, she's only creating opportunities for Mayra Bueno Silva, who, you don't want to move around too much with a girl that's that fluid with her armbar, and just ask Stephanie Egger. Or maybe don't ask Stephanie Egger. She'd probably tell you, I didn't lose. What are you talking about? What? No, but Lena Lansberg, she is an elbow queen. That's her name, the elbow queen. She could rough up Mayra Bueno Silva in tight, but I just think, again, she'd lose the physicality battle, and that would work against her. I think her only real chance of winning is keeping this fight standing and outpointing Mayra from the outside. I don't even think she could do that. I think if she keeps the fight standing and they're at range, Mayra Bueno Silva probably wins. I like her movement better. Not so much, not when she's fighting Manon Fiore anyway, but overall I like her movement better, especially against a really slow, plodding Lena Lansberg. And I like her heart, too. She lost 2 fights, the Manon Fiore and Marina Moroz. And Marina Moroz hurt her and was beating her up in the first 2 rounds. And in round 3, Mayra Bueno Silva was going for it. Even though she was sloppy, it was a sloppy fucking mess, she was still going for it. And she was fucking relentless, swinging arms and legs and not letting up. And I thought, whatever, even in defeat, that was a good trait to have displayed. So I like Mayra Bueno Silva getting the finish. I like the under, really. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 140. That's what I've played. I do think if Bueno Silva gets the victory, it will be a little later into the fight. Round 2, maybe even round 3. But most of her finishes have come in round 1. So it's always a possibility. In general, the under is my play. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 140. And it also hedges with Lena Lansberg landing the elbow knockout, which won't happen. Jamal Emmers versus Hussein Ashkabov. Ashkabov is 23-0. He was supposed to be in the UFC 3 years ago, but injuries and visa issues and horse shit kept him out. He's still young, 28 years old, and he's a damn good athlete, really versatile fighter, 10 submissions, 6 TKOs, 7 decisions. Most of them over garbage opposition, though. Like, really, the overwhelming majority. Not great competition. Jamal Emmers, on the other hand, is a very underrated 18-6. I think he's a very underrated 18-6. Haven't liked what I've seen from him in defeat so much, but in victory, he's shown a lot. And even in defeat against Giga Chikadze, anyway, that was a razor-thin fight, and I think he knows he could have won if he hit a takedown earlier, because after he hit that first takedown in round 2, I thought he was even getting the better of the striking against Chikadze. But still, not completely, just he was in it. He was, he's able to throw down with Giga Chikadze. It's impressive. And look, he's a wrestler. He's a wrestler first and foremost, Jamal Emmers. And he's got good takedowns and really, in particular, good entries. And on the ground, too, he's no slouch at all. Got really good submission game. He's been submitted twice, of course. A guy Pat Sabatini got him out of there in that last fight, which tore his knee up. That was a fight in which, he had it. He had it, Jamal Emmers. He knocked Sabatini down, and then it was 3 seconds later he was tapping. So I know he took away some lessons from that one, even though he's already had 24 fights or whatever. He still probably learned his biggest lesson in that last one. Got a little overzealous. Ray Trujillo submitted him too in round 2 some years ago. Julian Erosa knocked him out with a head kick. And his other TKO was a round 5 to Thiago Moises. Round 5. So, look, Jamal Emmers, he's been beaten before, but it's been the really good fighters, and I trust him more. I think he's going to take away a lot of Ashkabov's strengths with his athleticism. Even though I do think Ashkabov is the better athlete, Jamal Emmers is no slouch. And he's a really skilled fighter, Jamal Emmers. I trust his skills, to be honest, more than I do Ashkabov, having run through, shittier competition. He's passed all the tests with flying colors, but this is his first real test. So, we'll see how it goes. I like Jamal Emmers winning. If I had a gun to my head, I'd go with a decision, which you could play at plus 225, but I've played his money line at plus 110 and plus 105. I think Jamal Emmers is my pick to win the fight, so I may as well bet on him at plus whatever. OSP versus Philip Lins. OSP was a slow, plodding fighter back in his prime 10 years ago, or whatever the fuck. But not now. He's 39, going on 40 in like a month. He's fighting Philip Lins, who's 37. I don't know when he'll be 38, but can't be too long. Anyway, Philip Lins is a former heavyweight champion. He won the PFL tournament, or the WSOF. I don't remember it. I just remember watching it. Taking out Josh Copeland, I believe, with knees. But he is a versatile fighter, Philip Lins. What's he have? 15 wins, 5 losses. Of his 15 wins, he's got 8 KOs, 4 submissions, 3 decisions. And his 5 losses are 4 via KO, 1 via decision. Philip Lins is, I don't trust him durability-wise. He's got the 4 losses. But I think he's going to be able to protect himself well against OSP. OSP is tricky. That Menafield knockout, which wasn't even too long ago. Right? Maybe it was 4 years ago or whatever. I don't know. But that was the perfect example of the crafty fighter that OSP is, sneaking that hook. And even in his last, grappling match he had like 2 or 3 months ago against Andrade Petrosky dominated him from beginning to end. And then with like 30 seconds left, OSP, I think, hit him with like a knee bar or something. But it was the biggest moment of their grappling match, and I just started laughing, going, all right, he's still got it. He's still got some tricks up his sleeve. Of course, he lost, though, but whatever. I'm picking Philip Lins to win, Here I am patting OSP on the back. Good job. Now I'm picking against you. I'm picking Philip Lins to win because I like what I see from him. I think he's going to win the speed battle. I like his hands. I think he's going to be able to touch OSP up. And on the ground, if he's able to impose his ground game, get OSP down, I think he could definitely work OSP over. Probably not get a finish, but keep him on his back. And overall, I just think Philip Lins is the better fighter at this point in their careers. He's getting older. He's a 37-year-old with 4 KO losses. It wouldn't surprise me at all if OSP was to win. But I can't pick him. I got to go with Lins. And no bet on this fight. I was going to go Lins by decision at plus 175. That's just not enticing enough. So I'll stay away from this. Evan Elder versus Nazim Sadykhov. Nazim Sadykhov trains right over here at Serra Longo, or Longo Weidman, or whatever the fuck it's called. But he is a local, and he's the favorite here, minus 190. He's got a 7-1 record. I think his one loss was in his debut. It was a rear naked choke loss, just conventional 2-minute rear naked choke. It's on YouTube. But his wins are more impressive than the loss. He's got 5 KOs, 1 submission, and 1 decision. Who's the guy he beat in the Contender Series? Ahmad Hassanada. But he got him out of there. He's with a round 3 finish. He's got 3 round 3 finishes and his 7 victories already. So that's impressive, even though only one of them was against a good fighter. The other 2 were largely dog shit. But to be able to get the finish in round 3 is nice. One of them was a submission and 2 are his KOs. I like Sadykhov. I really like him as a fighter. I really like his striking. He's like a patient stalker. He wants to counter. He mixes shit up a lot, mixes his counters up. And he, like I said, he's patient, but he waits for that moment, and he doesn't just counter with 1 strike. He counters with combinations, and, he's coming straight at you. So he's like a deceptive fighter, and I like deceptive fighters. Evan Elder has the same record, 7-1. He's got 4 TKOs, or KOs. At least one of them's a KO. The other ones are on the ground, even though one of the ground victories, he knocked the guy down. So there's that. 1 submission victory and 2 decisions. His 1 loss is a decision, and it was to Preston Parsons in his last fight in the UFC, his UFC debut. And he was dominated, pretty much. Dominated with wrestling. He didn't have much for Preston physically. Preston was the bigger guy. Evan did move up in weight on that one, so he's fighting a bigger guy at 170. And Preston Parsons was just too much for him. Too big and too much. But still, Evan Elder really impressed me. I think it was the end of round 2. He was put into an arm triangle choke for like 2 minutes, and it looked really tight, and he somehow fought out of it. He just kept surviving and surviving, and then at the end, when Preston went to finish it, flattening his chest out, he cut an angle and got out of it. And I thought it really just showed a lot of heart. And I trust his heart. I think Evan Elder has a lot of heart and a lot of good intangibles. I think he's going to have to out-hustle what's his name? Nazim. I almost said Sadim. I'm like John Travolta. Dazel Nazim, or whatever. But Nazim, is the better striker, though. He's the better striker. I do think he's going to be doing better with his counters, but he's going to have to be out-hustled to be defeated. Evan is, he's got good hands. I do like his form on the feet. He kind of reminds me of, like, as a prospect, not really as a striker, but he reminds me of A.J. Fletcher. These guys, they probably have similar records, too. But, he's a gritty guy, Evan Elder. He's a gritty guy. I think he wants to get inside on Nazim, get him down, which, even then he still wouldn't be out of the woods because the guy trains with Sarah, but still, his 1 loss is a rear naked choke. Evan Elder only has the 1 submission victory, but he's a versatile fighter. Again, 2 of those TKOs at least come on the ground. 1 from the back mount, and it seems to be more his bread and butter. In this fight, I do think he's going to need a speed advantage. Nazim probably has a speed advantage or whatever, but he's going to have to touch Nazim up. He's going to have to beat him to the punch in order to create opportunities for the takedowns, because Nazim is a patient guy, and patient guys are ready to defend takedowns. So you got to make him think. You got to get him thinking to open shit up. And I do think Evan Elder can get it done. These guys, there's not a lot on either guy. They each have 8 fights as a pro. There's only 1 UFC fight between the 2. And 1 Contender Series fight. There's not a lot to look to, so I do think there's some room for Elder to win, especially considering I think he's the more active fighter, and I also think he's got, again, heart. He's got heart, and no reason to doubt his chin yet. So there's some room for Elder to win. I sprinkled something on him to win by decision at plus 375. I don't really know why I did that, because I guess it's because he doesn't have the best submission game. But I do think this fight is going to be a pretty close one. I think it's going to be largely held on the feet, and the winner could be the guy that gets top position more. So I thought the line was a little juicy there. I sprinkled it. But my pick, I guess I'll go Sadykhov getting a decision victory. AJ Fletcher versus Thembo Gorumbo. Gorumbo is a South African fighter. He's got a 10-3 record, 1 KO, 6 submissions, 3 decisions. His 3 losses are 1 via KO, 1 via submission, 1 via decision. He's lost to good fighters. Not great fighters, but good fighters. Henderson Ferreira beat him by decision in his last one. Dave Mazzani, solid fighter, knocked him out in round 2. And he was also submitted by Leon Mehrhard, or whatever his name is. That's the guy that beat Don Madge 3 times. If you remember knowing that fact, well, that's the guy that submitted him. So there's not a lot of shame in either of those losses, but there is a lot of shame in his stand-up technique. I mean, this guy, he's built well and whatever, but he doesn't throw well. He doesn't throw strikes well at all. A lot of arm punches and reaching. You know, he seems really uncomfortable, and I expect AJ Fletcher to be much more comfortable than him on the feet, even though Gorumbo's got a gigantic reach advantage, 9 or 10 inches and 2 inches of height. So he's got some shit on his side, but I just think he's up against it on the feet. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get this fight to the ground. You know, that's where he's done the majority of his wins, of his winning, 6 submissions out of 10 victories. And a good amount of those are off his back, believe it or not. He's got like 2 or 3 triangle chokes. And he's good. He's good. You could see he knows his shit, but he's up against here, I think, against AJ Fletcher. AJ Fletcher, I think, dictates this fight wherever he wants it to be. Even though I don't know his wrestling pedigree, but I trust he's the better wrestler, and I know he's the better athlete. Again, Gorumbo's built well and whatever, but there's no spring in his step like there is with AJ Fletcher. AJ's a killer. He's got 9 wins, 4 TKOs, 4 submissions, 1 decision. The flying knee on the Contender Series is his highlight. But his 2 losses, he's shown a lot of grit. He was outpointed by Matthew Semmelsberger and Anjalusa. The Anjalusa fight was a fucking war. Anjalusa did outlast him, but still, Fletcher, even in a loss, showed grit, turning the tables, a few times. But mainly he showed survivability against Anjalusa in a war, and Matthew Semmelsberger, going 15 minutes with that guy who hits like a fucking truck, even though Semmelsberger won largely with top control. So, I think it's going to take someone who's able to get him down and able to, take away his athleticism, and that's not Gorumbo here. Gorumbo, I suppose, could win if Fletcher does get tired. Seems to have gotten tired, but he's never been finished. So if you want to sprinkle something on Gorumbo by round 2 or 3 submission, you could probably get it at good odds. But my prediction here is AJ Fletcher wins the fight. I'll take him to win by decision, and I'm not going to bet on it. I just can't trust anything here. And then the first fight of the night, Clayton Carpenter versus Juan Camilo Ronderos. Ronderos is the Colombian. He made his debut a few years ago against David Dvorak. And Dvorak just embarrassed him pretty much. He dropped him. Or I don't think he actually went down, but he staggered him and then took him... I don't even think it took him down. He just kind of took his neck and choked him out with one arm, too. It wasn't the prettiest loss, but David Dvorak's a very good fighter. It's a very tough debut. And debut or not, it's a very tough fight for a guy with 4 fights, which is what he had at the time, 4 pro fights. He's 9-0, I believe, as an amateur, and he's been fighting for some time. But, still, it's different being in there with a guy like David Dvorak in your 5th pro fight. Still, his 4 wins are 2 via submission, 2 via decision. He's got 1 win over, what's his name, Matthew Elliott? I think it's Matthew Elliott. That was a fight. Look, Matthew Elliott was dominating him, too. And Matthew Elliott might be a good fighter, might turn out to be. Doesn't have the shittiest record as of now. And Matthew Elliott was beating him, and he ended up breaking Matthew Elliott's arm. Put him in, I forget exactly what it looked like. I just watched it the other day. But some weird submission, locking up his arm with his legs. I'm sure it's probably just called like an arm bar or something. But either way, he fucked up his arm, and then Matthew actually attacked him after the fight. But, too little, too late. Anyway, it was a very Cheeto Vera performance. Very Cheeto Vera, that victory. And, even though it was a submission, not that Cheeto doesn't do submissions, but it was still very violent. That's what was reminiscent of Chito Vera. His biggest win comes over Eric Shelton. Eric Shelton used to fight in the UFC, a tried and tested veteran, really, really good fighter, you know. Outside the UFC now, he's a really good fighter. Inside the UFC, maybe he wasn't the best, but still a competent guy. And Ronderos won. He won a decision, a 5-rounder too. And it was really close. It was a split decision. It ended up going to Ronderos. I did think he pretty much, I don't know, they were both kind of hanging on. It's like the shittiest fight that ever took place. But still, to even get any sort of victory over a guy like Eric Shelton when you have no fights, it's very impressive. My fucking leg is cramping up. Very impressive. So Ronderos, I think he might be a little underrated. You know, the one high-profile fight he's got is that one loss to David Dvorak, in which he was hurt on the feet and strangled with one arm. It's just a shitty look. But against everyone else, even though he hasn't looked dominant, certainly, he's 4-0. You know, and again, he took out Eric Shelton. Clayton Carpenter, who's the big favorite here, he's a bigger guy, got an inch or two of height and reach, and he's definitely got more promise. This guy, you know, he's well-rounded. He's got 6 wins, 2 via KO, 2 via submission, 2 via decision. His win over Edgar Caires was very impressive. Very impressive. He was losing in round 1. That wasn't impressive at all in round 1, getting his ass kicked, but taking over and winning in rounds 2 and 3. What makes it as impressive is it takes away the skepticism I had from that other fight he had against this guy, Manuel, I think, Medina. And that was a fight in which he, was Medina took over. He won rounds 1 and 2, and Medina took over in round 3. That guy's tough, but he's certainly not a name. And he was taking it to Carpenter. And look, Carpenter survived and won a decision. He's still got a perfect record. And after turning things around in the Contender Series and, you know, winning rounds 2 and 3, I have no real doubts about Clayton Carpenter. No real doubts about him at all. And I'm picking him to win this fight. But I'm betting on Ronderos because I think there's a little value there. Ronderos, he's smaller, you know, and he's shorter, smaller, going to be weaker. I do think Carpenter's the better athlete, and he wins the physicality battle. But Ronderos, again, he only lost to David Dvorak. He's been 5 rounds with Eric Shelton and came out on the winning end. He's a grinder, no doubt. You know, believe me, go watch the Eric Shelton fight. And I think Clayton Carpenter is still inexperienced, where there might be some room for Ronderos to teach him a lesson. So I like Ronderos' money line. I don't love it, obviously, but I like it at plus 225. Definitely think there's some value there. And that's pretty much it. So that is it. That's it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.